What is up, Dingles Crypto? So I hope everybody's having a fantastic day. Oh, no. What's up, Dingoes, right? I got to call you guys Dingoes from now on. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. You are now and forever a dingo. So I'm sorry if you don't like the name, but you are a dingo. I'm a dingo too, guys. So we're in this together. But today we're going to be talking about social media censorship. This might be my favorite video I have ever made. I try to be as objective as I can. If you have any problems or issues or just points to make, comment below, because I try my best to respect everybody's opinions. I mean, I don't try my best. I just do, because I think that's a decency that all humans should provide, is just respect for other people's opinions. That it has been increasingly rare in today's day and age, but I think that is something you should afford to every individual, is respecting their opinion and understanding their perspective a little bit. So today we're going to be talking about that and how blockchain can solve this problem in a pretty uncontroversial virtually way, right? So I think the solution that the blockchain provides is pretty uncontroversial, and we'll get into that at the end, so make sure you stay tuned. So first, let's talk about the dominoes in which fell leading up to Donald Trump getting banned off of Twitter, right? Which happened recently. First, Alex Jones several years ago during the Newtown, Connecticut shooting. He said some really bad things and lies. He did apologize for that after he got kicked off of social media platforms, but it was a very bad thing he did. One thing you have to admit, that even though he's pretty conspiratorial, he has said some truths. Probably 10 to 25% of what he says is truthful. So the point I'm trying to get across with that is, if you censor people, you will censor truth. No matter who you censor, what you censor, everybody speaks some degree of truth, and you will end up censoring truth. But that is kind of the balance you have to play, right? Now let's go into what happened recently. Donald Trump got kicked off of Twitter, and then a couple days later after they did that, Twitter tweets ahead of the Ugandan election, we're hearing reports that internet service providers, centralized servers, are being ordered to block social media and messaging apps. We strongly condemn internet shutdowns. They are hugely harmful, violate basic human rights and the principle of the open internet, guys. This is extremely hypocritical. They're saying centralized servers should not censor what is on their servers. But then they go and do it a couple days beforehand, and they've been doing it for years, guys. So that's extremely hypocritical, no matter how you look at it. And we'll talk about that here in a second as well. On Thursday, Parler, if you don't know what Parler is, it's basically a social media app that their thesis is free speech, no matter what it is. And they actually got kicked off of Google Play as well as Apple App Store. So on Thursday, Parler was the most popular app in the United States. By Monday, 3 of the 4 Silicon Valley monopolies united to destroy it, right? So that's here nor there. We'll talk about that shortly. No matter what you believe, we can go over the pros and cons here. But first, I want to say what social media app is next, right? So, there's been a lot of news articles about Telegram. And Telegram, NBC News, which is not a small organization, right? And they have been reporting Telegram a recent haven for far-right purges extremist content. So this is a domino that will not be stopped until something stops it, right? Until something forces it to stop in a responsible manner. And I think that is blockchain and integrating social media into blockchain and decentralized arbitration protocols. And if you don't know what those are, make sure you stay tuned until the end, because I'm going to explain those in depth as well. Now let's go quickly over the pros and cons, because I try to make this list as objective as I can, because I do think this is a very good debate between good points, right? And most debates, the answer is in the middle, right? Because each side does have valid points here, and most debates, most hot topics in the United States, the answer is right in the middle somewhere, guys. And we're going to discuss that here. So First off, it is perfectly within the private company's right to censor, and that is because most of the revenue comes from social media, right? So, I mean, most of social media's revenue comes from advertisers, and they need to make a safe haven for advertisers and actually make an advantageous environment for advertisers to advertise, because that's what they're getting paid to do, right? And that's where most of their revenue comes from. And the social media's priority is to make money for the stockholders and themselves. And the only way to do that is to make a safe environment for advertisers, because that's their main income stream, guys. So just keep that in mind that's definitely a pro for censoring, is creating a safe environment for advertisers, which is the main source of revenue for these companies. So second is stop people from accessing copyright information. That's pretty objective, is copyright information, right? And objective and subjective is the main thing I'm trying to get across here, whether that is a subjective decision or an objective decision, right? And censoring copyright information is pretty objective. Keep people from viewing harmful and sensitive content. This is a little more subjective, but harmful and sensitive, I mean, you definitely could see like maybe some like pornographic things on social media that's obvious, and you want to kick those people off maybe, or terrorist organizations, even though they aren't necessarily doing that, right? So that is subjective as well. Control internet related crime. This is objective, because you can very easily find out what is a crime, and the Twitter accounts associated with that could be kicked, even though you see cryptocurrency scams 5 times a day. so they're not doing a good job at that. Insightful speech, this is where it comes in, because this is why Trump got kicked off, is insightful speech and pushed off mainstream platforms. So this is very subjective. So there's a balance between creating a safe environment for advertisers as well as not creating a confirmation biased ecosystem, right? And I think that's a balance that needs to be find a balance, right? So we'll talk about the cons, and then we'll talk about my viewpoint real quickly. And anytime you can comment, and I'll definitely have a conversation with you about this, because this is a hot topic and it's very important to just have conversations. So cons, very possible that the truth and facts are censored. So like I said about Alex Jones, even though I mean, you can say there was validity behind banning him from platforms because he lies majority of the time. He did say some truths and facts. So no matter what you do, you will censor facts. Pushes everyone into a higher degree of confirmation biased bubble, right? So if you push people off your platform, then they will just go into their own confirmation biased bubble, the far right, the far left, and then the centrists. So there will be 3 confirmation bubbles, and therefore dividing our nation even more, which is obviously not a good end game. Free speech violations. So this is tough. This is definitely tough, but at the end of the day, the internet is becoming a main means of communicating among everyone. So there needs to be some free speech clauses integrated into the internet, and I think that will come when Web 3.0 and blockchain and smart contract blockchains really get integrated into our daily lives, right? So the next issue is who's in charge, not the courts, instead the mob mentality, right? And usually the mob is a minority group that are loud, right? So at the end of the day, it's kind of sad to see these mobs just censor people and take down individuals they disagree with. It's very disgusting to see, and when social media platforms tends to pick the mob versus the majority, it's sad to see. And instead, we need to see some type of arbitration and some type of litigation between these disputes, instead of just the mob and an authoritarian Jack-tatorship, which Jack Dorsey is in charge of Twitter, and I call it the Jack-tatorship now. Actually, Vitalik Buterin said that first, but I loved it, so I'm going to take it. So the facts come from academic theory and philosophy. So a lot of these facts that these social media companies are actively pursuing are kind of just theory and philosophy. And philosophy, academia, philosophy nowadays is pretty cynical. They focus on a very niche topic, and then they get very cynical about it, and they say you support it or blah blah blah, you're a bad person. And versus back in the day, it was more like general philosophical enlightenment, right? And they've kind of stopped focusing on general enlightenment. I can't say that word. And they started focusing on this very niche, cynical topics, right? And it's not good for philosophy in general in my eyes. But that is what it is, and you can debate that. I try to be as objective as I can between the pros and cons. As you can see, basically the balance is between creating a safe social media platform for advertisers and kind of not creating and not pushing people off your platform and creating confirmation bubbles all over and dividing the nation even more. So that's where you are balancing between, and it's a very hard balance. So my takeaway is to balance pros and cons with discretion determined by a court rather than the mob/individual. So that's my takeaway, guys. And we're going to talk about how blockchain can do exactly this. So let's go into Vitalik because he tweeted about this. But back to the situation, the fact that so many people who would normally never support such a corporate power are now cheering tech CEOs running roughshod over democratically elected officials deserve some introspection, right? So the people supporting this banning of Trump and banning of democratically elected officials, they do not like powerful corporations, and yet they support this, right? It's kind of hypocritical. Each side is very hypocritical, guys. It's kind of sad to see how hypocritical each side is. It's disgusting. But once again, more hypocrisy coming from the people cheering on these censorship just because they are censoring people they disagree with, right? So yay, no more arguments against my arguments, right? That's kind of what they're cheering on, and it's pretty hypocritical. So I'm not saying they're wrong, just some introspection, right? Yeah, once again, it's just hypocrisy. And now, for me, Jack banning Trump violates one principle of liberal democraticness. Jack was never elected by a vote. This is what I talk about, the Jack-tatorship, right? But the event was a huge win for another principle of liberal democraticness, separation of powers. So I don't understand that part primarily, but maybe you can describe it in the comments, is how that is a big win for separation of power. Crypto may actually have a role to play here. It's a non-state centric ecosystem that has had a grapple with tough political philosophy questions already, but to achieve its potential, it needs to get its head out of its sand and admit that certain challenges exist. So once again, I mean, Ethereum is kind of creating its own country of pretty libertarian models and free market economics, and I love it. That's why I'm a big supporter of it. And I think it can play its same role in social media and kind of creating free markets within social medias where people can switch between social medias a lot and maybe have a social media aggregator just built on the blockchain with decentralized arbitration court system. And it's very realistic, and we'll get into that more here shortly. So the attempts at bringing down Parler are very worrying. Apple, Google, Amazon server are much more like common infrastructure providers, right? So see, that's where the issue comes from, is the common infrastructure provider other than the service, right? Twitter is a service that is on a common infrastructure provider, right? So these people are getting taken over by Ethereum. I almost guarantee it, or other smart contract blockchains, because you cannot have them deciding on who's on their platform or not, because at the end of the day, they should provide a service, their servers for anybody to use, and let the public decide the demand for that product versus them deciding the demand for that product. That's some authoritarian baloney, right? So Yeah, I totally agree with Vitalik here. These service providers should not censor of who they're providing a service for, because they should make the public, they should have the public decide who demands that. And if there's no demand for it, there will be no product for that, right? So they're just fighting free markets, and free markets is the best decision-making model in the world. And now let's talk about Jack, because actually in 2019 he says Twitter is funding a small independent team of up to 5 open source architects, engineers, and designers to develop an open source and decentralized standard for social media. The goal is for Twitter to ultimately be a client of the standard, guys. So he actually, Jack Dorsey, wants to create a decentralized social media platform, and maybe even have Twitter go in that direction, guys. So do we see a Twitter governance token coming out soon, guys? A Twitter governance token? Maybe, who knows? But I might be buying that. But anyways, this was in 2019, and actually Blue Skies is the Twitter of the 5 developers and of this decentralized standard of social media they're trying to create, and Blue Sky is that group of engineers and architects and developers. So if you want to follow their updates on what's happening with that, I would just go and follow them, because Blue Sky is in the spirit of decentralization. We had a crazy idea. So yeah, they're just trying to create a decentralized social media, and they're backed by Twitter, right? So there you go. If you want to shoot them a follow, we'll see what happens in the future. They have not been very active on Twitter, unfortunately. So I don't know how this is going. You could look more in depth into it. Very interesting stuff. Now let's talk about my idea. So instead of having a centralized server like Amazon, Apple, Google, use Ethereum, which is a decentralized server, and it will provide a server platform for any applications that wants to use it, right? It's completely free market, right? So you put your application on it. If it gets used, it gets used. If it doesn't, it doesn't, right? So it's completely fair market, or open market, and that's what I like, and that's why Vitalik has such a strong opinion about centralized servers, is because he created the best decentralized server, in which Ethereum is. So that's what's up. That will be this future server that everybody uses, is Ethereum. And then here's some decentralized social networks built on Ethereum. You can go ahead and look into it. But say like we can just look at one for. But the one thing with Mines is they're still using Google Play. So we actually need a decentralized app store. Do we have a decentralized app store? If you know a decentralized app store, comment below, because that would be really cool, and I might be able to get behind that one. So we do need some sort of decentralized app store. So yeah, and then here's a lot of other ones. The income generating social media, live peer, open source video infrastructure. So all these are built on a Ethereum, the premier decentralized server. So no more AWS or Google. You can just use Ethereum. And now let's go into here. Akasha is another decentralized social media, and let's go into how to arbitrate that. So if you want to make a platform that is advantageous for advertisers to advertise on, you can use Kleros. Integrate Kleros into your social media platform and say X, Y, and Z's rules to arbitrate on posts that are on your social media. And then if something violates the community guidelines, Kleros can arbitrate. And Kleros, if you don't know what it is, it's basically monetizing juries, and you can basically put into enter a case, and then a jury, which holds Kleros tokens, get to vote on it. And if they pick, if they have incentives to pick the right choice, because if they don't, they get tokens taken away from them. If they do pick the right choice, they get tokens rewarded to them, right? And that's how they incentivize you to pick the right decision. And the right decision is the vote, the outcome which has the most votes, and that is the right decision. If you want to look more into decentralized courts, I really think it's essential infrastructure for the future of DeFi and a lot of other things on Ethereum. So if you want to look into it, very interesting stuff. But I think social media governed by a decentralized arbitration protocol, I think that's the future, and I think that is a very easy solution. Easy is not a good word for it, but very uncontroversial solution to this issue that we see today. But that is all for today. I really do hope you enjoyed this content. If you did, please like and subscribe. We are currently at 905, guys. We're going to 1,000 here shortly. I'm super pumped, and I hope you can, dingoes can join us and create an awesome community, because we're definitely on our way to do so. And you can shoot me a follow on Dingle Crypto or my joshhudson.eth, which is my personal. All links are in the bio, as well as the Telegram and Discord chat if you want to chit chat. All right, peace out till next time, and dingle dingle.